Can you hear me now? Do you have sound now? Let me check if there are. Yes, okay. Sorry for that. So let's start in the beginning. So welcome to this HelloID webinar of the November release. So I'm going to discuss the new features of this November release. I'm not going to discuss the features that are already available in HelloID before this release. If you have any questions, you can put it in the chat and I will check the chat. And of course, if you have information like we don't have sound, thank you for putting it there so I can react on it. Also, I put in a poll inside the chat so you can vote on your favorite feature, and I will discuss that feature first. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. The subscription really helps us because if you have more subscriptions, then I think 500 and we're on 250 or something like that currently, we can use a more advanced poll system. So that's a YouTube way of getting more subscriptions. So please do that. And of course, hit the bell icon so you will never miss a webinar. You will get a notification that there is a new webinar or a new video or anything that we upload for HelloID. Let me go back to, let me check the voting results for the poll. It's still 50-50. So I mentioned it earlier, but you didn't have sound. Let's start with the on and offboarding feature. So I've already logged into HelloID and I already went to the provisioning platform or the website portal. And if you see here in the menu under business rules, you will see a menu item, personal lifecycle. And here you can configure how you want this lifecycle of a person to be configured for the on and offboarding. And could be that we use this UI a lot more in the future, but for now it's only for the onboard and offboarding configuration. So here you can set, okay, I want a mail notification event 7 days before a person is onboarded. And I can change it, of course, I can say 5 days, but in my case, I think 7 is nice. And also for the offboarding, so it's 14 days before a person leaves the company. Why do you want to use this? So let's say for the pre-onboarding, you want to notify your manager that 7 days before somebody starts, you will get an email, hey, this person will start on that day or with this contract in your department, something like that. And also, of course, if a person leaves the company, you want the manager to get notified because sometimes, I noticed in the field, is that sometimes the manager forgot to extend the contract or go to HRA. This person shouldn't leave the company. He's still working for me. It's a little bit strange, but it happens in the field. So it's really nice to have these 14 days before the person leaves the company to have an email to the manager or maybe to HR or something like that, where you can say, okay, this person is almost ready to leave the company. Maybe he also needs to return a laptop or phone or something like that. How do we use that? So this is pretty straightforward. We say 7 days and 14 days before leaving. If you want to use this, you have to enable this in scheduling. So if you have a schedule, you have here determine personal lifecycle. This should be enabled. So when this is disabled, it won't trigger anything. The other part is this does not require an enforcement or something. So if you do a scheduled import and this is enabled, it will do it directly after it's scheduled. So it's loosely coupled to the enforcement on the business rules. So it will do it directly after a snapshot is created for a schedule. And the other side is we have to go to notifications. And if I create a new notification, I can choose an event and you will see here the on and offboarding event. And I can just select that and of course, I can use a email message, and I can still use the templating like we used to, like this for the manager, or getting a dynamic value, of course, the from and the subject. And also, like here, you have a manager example, manager.displayname or manager.email, something like that. You can use inside your email template. There's something a little bit special about this email for both the pre-onboarding and the pre-offboarding, is that you have a new value, and that's contract. And contract, it isn't the primary contract, but it's the contract that triggered the event. And there can be changes in there, or they can be different. As an example, you have 2 upcoming contracts that start on one is in 6 days and the other one is in 14 days, something like that. And I've configured 7, so it triggers on the first one. So let's say contract A. But I did an ordering for the primary contact on the contract number, and it was A and B, or the contract ID, and it's A and B. So A is the primary contract, but it triggers on the B contract. And therefore it could be a different contract, but I think in most of the situations it's going to be the same. But therefore we put both of them in. So you still could use primary contract using the person object. So person.primary contract dot start date or dot department or something like that. But we also have a different object, contract, and that's the contract that triggered the event. Also, I have to mention that if we go back and we go to the personal life cycle here, you can see it's 7 days before and 14 days after. But we make a kind of a timeline between all the contracts. And if there is a gap of 4 days between the contracts, we see it as a single timeline. So normally, if we go to the rules and things like that, if the contract is ended, we just revoke the entitlements and the permissions, of course. But in this case, we say, okay, there's a gap of 3 days or something like that, or 2 days. We see just as one timeline. So we're not starting the pre-offboarding email based on that. And another thing, which is a different situation, is if the pre-onboarding is the event is started. So let's say it's 7 days before, and somebody changes the start date. So the start date is let's say today. So it's sent today, but then I'm going to change it to tomorrow. We will not send the pre-onboarding mail twice if it is inside 14 days that the previous one has sent, or in the situation if your value here is higher than 14, let's say I want a month before, 30 days before, we will not send it for 30 days. So that's also a kind of setting that we're doing automatically for you guys to help you prevent sending a lot of emails for on and offboarding. And hopefully this is enough. If it isn't, please put it in the feedback portal, and we can look at it, how we can help you guys with the better configuration for this. I put it back to 7 days because I think it's a better value. That's the pre-on and offboarding part. So just three steps. So configure this, enable it in the source, and make a notification on it. Let me check if there are any questions. No, I don't see any questions. So let me check the score again. Okay, so pre and offboarding has another vote, so that's no issue because we already discussed that one. So let's start with the person irrigation improvements. So there are 2 new improvements on person irrigation. So I'm only showing the new stuff. So please keep in mind that I think that you already know what person irrigation is and how it works. But there is a situation where you couldn't transfer all your current entitlements and audit logging and person difference to another person. And that was with a suggestion. With a suggestion where there are multiple persons that are already inside the fold. Hopefully something that doesn't happen often in the field, but it could be that is the case. So I will show you this scenario because we thought about something and how you can use this. So let's say we have a event chip and we have 2 event chips inside the fold, and both of them have things assigned. So it has an account here in the doc system and an account in the top desk system. It has some memberships for Azure AD on-premise, but also in the cloud. And the other event chips also has some things. The docs account is still waiting, but it has a top desk account and things like that. Also, it has a history, it has audit logging, everything besides them you can see here. And both of them have things assigned. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to introduce a 3rd chip. And what I'm going to do is I have my enable automatic irrigation enabled and also the suggestions. But in this case, because there are already 2 persons in the fold and I'm going to bring a new event chip with the same key, it will trigger the automatic match, but because there are 2 persons in the fold, it will go to a suggestion. So let's see if this works. So let's go to my source system and I'm just saying, okay, I have 2 event chips now and I'm changing it to 3. Let's wait for the save and then go to the system and let's import. And at irrigation, a message icon should appear if it's imported. Yes, it is. So now you can also see here a new person is added. So a single one, and now there are 3, and I'm only importing event chip to make it easier. So now you also can see, okay, I have a suggestion for event chip because there are 3 event chips. And normally it will go to automatic merging, but we skipped it because there are 2 persons already inside the fold. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make the new event chip that has nothing, no entitlements, no audit logging, no history. I will make that the main person. And if I'm going to approve that, I will have a new window, which is in this release. And here you can say, okay, we saw that there are multiple, 2 existing persons already that were in the fold that have something assigned. And what do you want to do? Because the new person has nothing and you can transfer something from the old values to the new person. But in this case, you can only do it from a single person. So I will have 2 event chips here. But of course, in the field, it will be 2 different records. And if I press cancel, I can still view the differences between the persons, but these are actually 2 different persons. But I can say, okay, I want to use this event chip to transfer all these entitlements, audit logging, person differences to the new main person. Be aware that that means is that this event chip, all the entitlements will be unmanaged. And that's also something here we have in the description and also with the icon we show that. So now I can do an approve. The suggestion is gone, and if I do a new snapshot, you will see that there's should be a single chip left, a single event chip, and he still has the entitlements of the chip I selected that I want to transfer from, and also the audit logging and history and accounts, of course, as well. And history, you can also see that we did a person transfer here. with this icon. So we'll always record this, and we never leave something unmanaged, only if you do it manually. So it will never get unmanaged an entitlement or something like that, or lose an account automatically, because there's always a manual step. That's our vision. So that's how the new feature works. So now we have a new screen where you can do the transfer for a suggestion if there are two people. If there's just a single person, it will just automatically switch, because there's no choice you have to make. So you can just say, okay, this is my main person, and bam, it will automatically transfer all the entitlements and the history. But now you have to choose which one of the current persons you want to assign to the new person, to the new merge person. The other one, that is that we can switch between a main person inside a merged person. So what we have here in Irrigation, if I go to manual and let me filter on only the merged persons. So here you have the event chip, and I still see the 3 event chips, right? And I still can see the details of the other event chips. So this is event chip 0, this is event chip, I think, 1, and the new one, of course, is event chip 2. And you can only use the details of a person, of a main person. So in this case, if I use the external ID on an Active Directory account, it will be FNC2 as an example. But what I can do here is I can press on this button, and I can say, okay, I don't want to have the event chip 2 as the main person, but I want to use the data from the person. The contracts, of course, are all merged, but the person data, I want to use that of another event chip. So let's say I want to use this one. And that means it will transfer all those assigned entitlements and person history and audit logging to the new event chip and make that the main. So if I do this, and you will see that again it's a transfer, and we have to create a new snapshot. So if I create a new snapshot here, you see it is merged again, and now you will see that event C0 is the new main person, and I can use this person details inside my target system. So this way you can manually change the main person inside a merged person. So don't be scared if you haven't selected the correct one at the first suggestion, because you can change it afterwards, and everything you already have assigned, it will go over, and you won't lose anything. So those are the 2 new improvements for person irrigation. Let me check if there are any questions. No, I don't see any questions. And then I'm going to check the new poll results. So we don't have any new votes. So let's go to the description for the business rules, because we're already in this view. Because it's part of provisioning, of course. So if we go to the business rules, we have the rules, of course, the overview rules, as you can see here. And what I can do now is if I go to, let's say, the rule for the department design, and I go to my general tab, I now have a description field. So now I can say here, okay, this is for department design and only active persons, something like that. Or I can say, okay, 14 days before and 14 days after, something like that, depending on what I want to put in here. As you can see, it was automatically saved, and I don't have to publish this because it's not a important change you have to do here. So we don't have to publish it, because it doesn't do anything with your permissions or start anything to a target system. So if I go back to my rules in the overview, I can, if I hover on the department design rule, I see my description. So this is a small change, but it will help you have a good example and good description of your business rule, and you could put notes on it or something like, I don't know, things you have assigned to it, whatever you want. It is limited to, I think at the top of my head, 250 characters. So you don't have endless text, but I think it's enough to give a good and brief suggestion what this rule should be about. And of course, I think you only have to do it if you have a lot of rules. So if you have a couple like this, I don't think it's an issue. But if you have 100 rules, or I don't know, above the 50, I think it's nice to have a more description-wise, based off knowing what is configured for the rule. And you don't have to go into the rule to see what is configured, because you can just put it in the description. Okay, that's the business rule description. Also, for provisioning, what we also changed was we have a new event for notifications. So with the pre and offboarding notification, like we saw here, we also have now the account lead event. So that means is if there is a target system, so you can choose for your target system, let's say on-premise Active Directory. If an account is deleted for the system, we will trigger this notification. So you can create a new notification based on that. The only thing is for Active Directory and for Azure, because it's built in systems, the information that you have is limited for the account. So you only have the SAM account name, the user principal name, the display name, and the email address. If you use a Powershell system, you can determine yourself what you want to send as an account values, because you can determine that in Powershell. But for these systems, the information is limited to those 4 fields. Of course, you can still use all the person information that you want inside the notification. Let me check again if there are any questions. And no, there aren't. So I'm going to move to the service automation features. So let me log in, or let me go to my admin portal inside HelloID, and let me assign to as a manager, because now I'm an admin, but I want to log into as a manager, because there I can show the new features a little bit better. So the new feature that we have is if you go to management and you go to manage users in the front end, you now see the inactive users, and you can also request things for inactive users. And that's really nice, because with this you can say, okay, I want to assign something before a person becomes active in your organization. So in a situation with the pre-on and offboarding mail, so let's say 7 days before a person becomes onboards on the organization, we send a email to the manager. Hey, this person is coming to the organization, and maybe he needs some stuff. We have something from the rules, so that's automatically. But also he can assign some resources, some permissions, maybe a phone or a laptop or something like that through the products. And what he can do here is he can see the user, because it's inactive, and can request a laptop or a phone or something like that. So it will be available when the person is going to be active. And that's something new, because in the past we could only show the active users, and then you can request only things on the active users. But now it is possible to do this with inactive, which makes it a nicer scenario, I think, as a whole. We also mark it, of course, so you can see which users are inactive and which are not. So it's pretty easy to distinguish those from each other. Of course, please be aware that it could be that some actions on a target system could be limited because the user is inactive. Let's say Active Directory, you cannot do everything in Active Directory because the user is limited or is disabled. So please be aware of that. But I think in most situations this works really nice and fine. We also have this available in the managed product. So if you go to, let's say, Visio, and I click on here, you also see the persons that are inactive. So you could also do this from a product point of stand view or a resource owner. Another thing that we have is if we go to the self-service product and I click on one, the URL now is changed. So in the previous state, it just showed the product overview URL, but now each product has an URL and you can copy and use this in, let's say, a new screen. And if I open this, it will open directly the product. And where you can use this is, let's say you want to integrate the HelloID products a little bit inside a different system, but you still have things like a form in it. What you could do is use the API to get all these products and just make a link to the request product in HelloID from that other product. And it's a little bit of a idea to use this instead of the iframe integration, which we have to deprecate because of security issues. So this is a really nice feature that you can link directly to the product. So it's easier to make a portal somewhere with all these products and link them to our product page. So you will still see the HelloID icons, of course, but you will only see the request of this product. So I think that's a nice feature to have. Let me check again if there are any questions. No, I don't see any questions. And I think those are all the features that we have in this new release. Of course, there are some other small changes, but I don't think they are big enough to mention them here. But you can find them in the release notes. So if you go to the roadmap, you will see all the big features. But if you press on the tab Notes, let me show that. So if you have our roadmap website and you go to, let's say, the launch, because this version is just launched, you will see here the big features. But if you go to Notes, you will see all the small details that are changed or fixed in this release. So there are a lot more, but I don't think they are big enough to mention in this webinar. So then I would like to thank you for listening and for your attention. If you have still any questions, you can put them in the comments, but of course you can also reach us with our support team, or of course if you have feedback based on a new functionality, you can put it on feedback.helloid.com or go to roadmap.helloid.com and there's a link to the feedback portal. And we appreciate, of course, all the feedback, and we try to improve and put in a lot more in the product, but sometimes it requires time, of course. And of course, not forgetting to mention that we please subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon so you will get a notification that there is something new, or in this case, this webinar is starting. So you will never miss a webinar or any documentation or release videos that we are making and having about information of HelloID. So thanks for watching, and till the next time.